Welcome to the next episode of Vine and Bubble podcast, where we discover the real story of Champagne. I'm Sarah Underdown, and today I'm in Champagne at a friend's house in Geur. And as you do when the weather is so fabulous, we're about to have a fantastic Saturday night with great champagne in the garden. I'm also here with a great person, a fine friend of the finest bubbles, but also a friend of mine. Her name is Essi Avellan, and she is Finland's first master of wine, a renowned sparkling and champagne wine specialist, author of several wine books, and has revised and extended the third and fourth edition of Tom Stevenson's award-winning Christie's World Encyclopaedia of Champagne and Sparkling Wine. But not only. Essi is an organiser of the annual Grand Champagne Helsinki event. She is a reputed wine judge, notably for the Sparkling Wine World Championships, a tasting panellist, and writes for numerous publications. Essi has also been knighted as a Chevalier by the Minister for Agriculture of France, amongst many other accolades. Essi, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
One of the things that really intrigues me about you is following your journey, which I'm always so impressed by, and I always look up to you. And I don't know anybody else who has followed the path that you have. Where and when did your journey begin with champagne?
Yeah, it obviously started first with the wine, as Finland is not really a wine-producing country or wasn't particularly a champagne country at the time. It was just an accident, a happy accident that I had this opportunity during my business studies to go and do a harvest in Bordeaux. So then the whole world of wine opened to me. I fell in love with I think I was intrigued by the sensory tasting. You know, all the other people were finding these amazing aromas in the wines, and I couldn't find a name to them. So that challenged me first. But then I really loved it as a business student. I love the industry. You know, it's very much like a gentleman's business industry where you have such a complexity. You know, you are talking about biology, geology, gastronomy, chemistry. You know, nothing could be richer than this. And I thought that, you know, one's working life is quite long, and I'm a bit of a workaholic. So it was really nice to choose something that, you know, would, forever fascinate you and where you're never ready. And that's why I wanted, you know, as a very young, first a wine buyer. I was a wine buyer at a Fairyline company because in the Nordic countries, you know, we have monopolies, retail monopolies.
Yes.
So the only other place where you basically can be a buyer is the Fairylines. And that was the time when I was in charge of the champagne selection and got to know the world of champagne a little bit. But I also felt like I absolutely knew nothing about wine and wanted to study as much as, as far as possible. And I started in the Master of Wine program in 2004. And that was the year also when I said, I decided that I will focus on champagne, because I had just noticed that, the more I studied, the more I understood, the just better I understood. I only know a little scratch on the surface of every topic. So I just thought that I'll focus on champagne. It wasn't a business opportunity or anything. It was just my love for the style of the wine, for its lightness, its elegance, its energetic character. And also, having a business study background, it's fascinating because it's at least 50% luxury product, 50% wine. So I was fascinated by it, but also I thought that it was such a misunderstood product because it was just for party. No one took champagne seriously. No one came to champagne at the time. And I wanted to tell people, I thought that, if I can explain it to them better, champagne will have even more fans. So that's when it started.
Amazing. And what a journey it's been so far. And there's a great quote that a journey is measured by friends and not by miles. And you have countless friends in Champagne. You know pretty much everybody, as far as I'm aware, in Champagne. And perhaps you've become the region's most active ambassador. You are always here. So in your early days, who were some of the people and producers that inspired you the most down this pathway? And also today, who is inspiring you?
Yes, when I started, I did my Master of Wine dissertation about single vineyard champagne. It was really the beginning of the terroir, getting back to the roots and starting to make single vineyard champagnes or monocru champagnes. So I think I got a lot of inspiration from the sort of leaders of that era. For example, remember Jacques Son, who were the first to make this sort of 700 cuvées, so give a number to their non-vintage, change the profile to make, or the portfolio to make single vineyard champagnes. So they definitely were at the time. But then I also, at the houses, when you start to know the chef de caves, I totally got fascinated by the job of the chef de cave especially the blending. It's like, we have to know the whole complexity of champagne in all the winemaking choices it gives you, all the terroir choices it gives you. And then you have to be quite the visionary to project where the wine is going to go during its aging. So yes, for me, it's intrigued me then, and it keeps on intriguing me. And I'm so happy that I get to spend most of my time talking with the best sparkling wine grape growers and winemakers in the world.
I think one of the challenging things is when you're starting out is getting the attention of people to spend the time with you. And I'm sure that there have been some key identities in Champagne that have really seen potential in you, and they've mentored you and really encouraged your own journey. So are there any specific people, any of those special chef de cave that you can pinpoint and say they've really helped me and inspired my own journey?
Yeah, I don't think that there was one particular form. I think that, it helped a lot when I got the Master of Wine degree in 2003, because, that opened a lot of doors for me here and in England. The magazines, the tasting competitions gave me a chance to, show what I could do. Because, before, if I was just Essi from somewhere else, peripheric as Finland, it would not have been ever possible. So I think that was probably the biggest thing. But I think since then, I think it's been just, persistency in doing what I do, because you have people, normally, I think, French particularly, they are sort of reserved in the beginning, as we definitely are with Finns. So I think it's taken time to, find the friendship, the sort of trust, what I today have with so many great champenois. So I think it's more been that, and also then, talking to a real broad group of people, learning from different aspects, and not just being taught by one. But of course, yes, one person, of course, I really want to name, for example, is Jean-Baptiste Lecaillon, who's been a supporter and a great, sort of mentor figure in my career. But there has been several chef de caves that have given me an amazing amount of time and possibilities.
I think one of my personal mottos in life is the secret to success is constancy to purpose. It's really just proving yourself and sticking with it, as you've just pointed out. So over the last few years, we've seen an unprecedented level of renewal, but also progress in Champagne. And some of this was driven by priorities around climate change and sustainability. But it also seems that wine lovers are becoming more demanding of Champagne, which has inspired some of the rise that we've seen now of quality, but also diversity. In your opinion, what are some of the most exciting developments in Champagne over recent years?
Yeah, I think you're quite right. Champagne, for me, it's at a very, very exciting point at the moment, because, when I started, it was much more, not nearly as dynamic as it is today. Things were just starting. We had the first pioneers on many of the fields, say biodynamics or these single vineyard champagnes and many of the micro trends we are witnessing today. So it's been actually really nice to follow and, of course, contribute to it all in the ways that I can. But yeah, totally. I really love to see how Champagne has turned into a wine. While it hasn't lost its magic, it has been able to keep its mystery and become a wine, a grand vin, a great wine amongst the great wines of the world. And we have this, I believe, an amazing community of Champagne lovers, Champagne fanatics coming here to study and experience the region, know its people, the winemakers, the growers on a personal level. It's really been put on the world wine map. Then, of course, we have the UNESCO World Heritage, which the whole process has been a huge undertaking by the region, which has such, great effects for us wine lovers as well, that, before, when I started to come to the region, it was really closed. It wasn't, looking at it from an enoturistic point of view at all. It was almost like a hostile region to come to, because it was really, in the history, it was that Champagne traveled, people didn't travel to Champagne. And this has all changed now. It's really beautiful, every year. Now we see so many of the Champagne houses founding their, amazing ways to visit not only the houses, but even the vineyard, great dining experiences.
It's a destination.
Hotels and things like that.
Yes.
Bringing this sort of experience, the world of experience and enjoyment, and with a little bit of a luxury touch, of course, as we like to see around our Champagne. So that to me has been wonderful. But then you're really right that the climate change is, of course, the biggest challenge, which we also need to take, or more see as an opportunity for the future. But it means a lot of change in the region, that's for sure.
Well, certainly from a winemaking point of view, we're seeing consistently warmer vintages, and since 2012, notably 18, 19, 20, last year was very warm as well. How do you think these warmer conditions are enhancing or detracting from champagne style? And are warmer conditions going to change the face of champagne as we know it? Or do you think that producers are going to find a way to continue on with the freshness?
Yeah, I think, we've clearly the warm profiles, some of the wines, warm year profiles, more vinosity, richness, roundness, softness. That has definitely, we can taste it in the wines. And if you are a lover of the sort of more classic, racy, acidic style, you might not like some of the new vintages. But overall, we have to say that so far the benefits have only been positive, because the non-vintages can easily be produced just about every year. Almost vintages can be made almost every year. The rosé, the red wines really, really ripen these days. So the rosé is clearly better than ever. But, of course, we must think as this product is born from the nature, we really must look far ahead in the future. And of course, that looks worrying right now, not today's situation. But yes, to make the wines so that they keep their freshness, not necessarily acidity freshness, but still to have this sort of minerality and tension in the wines, that's for sure. Luckily, there are a lot we can do in the vineyards, a lot we can do in the wineries, so it's not going to change overnight, but it's really we have to put, all our efforts in understanding what is happening and what are the ways that we can react to it.
So on another scale, you're the organiser of an incredible event every year, the Grand Champagne Helsinki. You provide champagne lovers and the trade with an opportunity to be fully immersed in a detailed program of masterclasses with some of the champagne's leading identities and winemakers, which is growing, it seems, every year. The topics are progressive and deeply layered. I'm just wondering, how have you seen the event grow and change since its inception? Because I know you've put a lot of work into it. And what feedback do you receive as to the kind of content and experience that champagne lovers are looking for now?
Yeah, it's been a wonderful journey. We started in 2015 and, started big, wanted to, dream big with the event. And it is extraordinary that we can have, close to 4,000 people visiting the event over the course of 3 days, taste more than 300 different champagnes from 70, 80 houses. But the thing that I'm the most proud of are the masterclasses, the champenois who come and do those amazing masterclasses, which I think this year we had 47 masterclasses in 3 days, which is great.
It's huge.
1,500 people in small Finland taking part in this just because of their love for champagne. And of course, more and more we attract a lot of the champagne fans from around the world. This year, more than 20 countries, we had people join the event, which makes it very important for the champenois as well, because this is where they can meet, the people they really want to talk to from around the world. So what we try to do, the idea is that it's not a fair, it's a celebration of champagne, one that, where you are, you have your thirst of knowledge and you have the right people there to quench that thirst for you in a very, very nice and friendly and celebratory manner. What I like to have, we're in Finland, so we're a very democratic country. We want to give the opportunity for every person to taste every wine. There's nothing ever taken, from below the table, or only to the ones that are the right people. So there are a lot of things like this, and also everyone is on the same level, big house or small grower, they all have the same space and exactly the same opportunities. This is very important for us. And I think it's one of the reasons why the champenois like to come there. They're sort of a little bit on a neutral territory. They also get to not compete there, but really to talk to each other and a sort of maybe, because Finland is a small market, it's a good market, but it's a small market. So it's maybe not on such an important territory for them. So it brings a very, very special ambience to the event.
So what kind of involvement do you personally have in bringing the masterclass subjects to audiences? So how are the topics decided on?
Yeah, I talk to, all the winemakers or growers who are interested in coming and try to obviously put together very, very versatile, web of masterclasses. Some cater really for collectors, some cater for the ones who want to really technically learn about champagne. Some for the beginners, some are more fun. You can taste, champagne and spices or champagne and food to have like a lunch or dinner experience during your masterclass. Mm-hmm. So it's really, the idea is to find something for everyone, also for every budget, so that everyone, because I think the event works the best, in a way that you do at least one masterclass, per day, and then you do the tasting in the tasting area, mm-hmm. because that's where you have the best learning opportunities. But that said, we have a lot of people coming especially from long distance, who take altogether 10 or 12 masterclasses. So mm-hmm. they sit in as many as they can, and they take it as a serious
learning opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any plans to expand the event into other countries or change in any other way, given that there's such a demand now?
Yeah, we play with the idea, and we've had a lot of propositions about it, but it works for certain reasons, especially in this concept, especially in Finland. And also it's a lot of, huge undertaking from our small team. So it's even I don't want to become a event organizer as my main profession. I still want to be really, here where the vines grow and the wines are being made. We're probably more going to do it maybe on a pop-up sense. We're not, nothing is ruled out, but it's not something we are really actively looking into right now.
Okay. So Michael Edwards says that your palate is one of the best in the effervescence world. Tom Stevenson says that you are the best and most consistent taster. I can vouch for those comments. You are regarded as a leading super taster by the champagne-loving community. So how did you develop your palate?
Yeah, I think it's actually funny looking back how difficult I found the tasting to be when I started, how I didn't find those aromas when I was working at that winery in Bordeaux. It took a long time, but then, I think the senses, of course, already, the hard drive always was there. I just had to learn to use my palate. And I don't think I'm a super taster. Yes, I'm very, very sensitive on certain aspects, say oxidation or light strike or things like that, maybe more than many other people. But really, to me, it's the consistency in doing it and tasting so much as I do. And the thing is that you need to taste both blind and, knowing what the wine is and tasting when talking to the winemakers. That's where I think the understanding comes from. Because especially with champagne, there's so much more of this sort of brand glamour around those wines, and it's, if you don't taste blind, you're never neutral. So blind tasting tells me my real taste, and yes, I am very, very consistent in doing it, but it's just what my senses tell me.
So I know that you're very sensitive to oxidation just through conversations that we've had, and you really do love freshness in champagne. That's one of the things, the traits that really you gravitate to. So how do you stay somewhat objective in that process of assessing champagnes, knowing that sometimes stylistically, of course, that can be the philosophical pursuit of the producer, but it may not be to your palate's liking. So how do you remain somewhat objective in that process?
Yeah, we can have a debate about, how much of reduction or how much of oxidation are tolerable within the style of champagne. And I guess we have, different limits to that. For me, I think I don't mind if the style is a little bit oxidative. And especially, I don't mind at all this sort of noble oxidation which comes over time. What bothers me a lot is the premature oxidation, which we are seeing increasingly because of the warming climate, and higher pHs, the lower sulfur levels, the sort of heavier use of oak, and the low dosage. So all of these really contribute to this particular style in the wines, which to me, some people see this, sense it as a complexity. But to me, it's like absolutely a veil over all the delicious fruit in the wine. I can't get through it and I don't understand it because to me, it's a very, very dull aroma that blocks everything else. So yes, it's very hard for me to be very excited about wines like that. And there are a lot of people whose work I believe in and who I really like as people. And it's very, very difficult if I don't. It doesn't match. I cannot, in a blind tasting, their wine.
So what would your advice be to people listening today who want to develop their palate a little bit more? Where should they start or how can they just get better at what they're doing?
Yeah, there really are no shortcuts. I'm a great believer in education. In wine industry, we have more and more of these opportunities. The WSET has done great, work on a global level to bring these same parameters to this super subjective world of wine. Nowadays, Wine Scholar Guild is a great body. And of course, I am very, very happy of the education I got via the Institute of Masters of Wine, because it really does, it tests your senses and makes you, how you describe the wine, and you have to go, say the alcohol levels or the sugar levels in writing. And that I think it's super healthy for all of us to really put our senses to the test. That's something I always want to do. When I visit the wineries here, I'm always intrigued that give me all the tasting experiments you can. Let me taste your different disgorgement. Let me be part of your dosage trial, because I want to test my own palate every day, how it works. So it's basically just, really comparative tastings, and especially blind tastings. That's how you develop the palate. I think that most people have a great palate, but they have just not trained it to the level it could be trained.
Great advice. So you're a friend of champagne. You've had many opportunities, incredible experiences and privileges that so many other people may never, ever have. What are some of your most memorable champagne tasting experiences?
Yeah, yes, the world of champagne is a bit of fun as well. And some of the funnest experiences I remember is that, I was researching for a magazine article. I was researching what altitude does for champagne, for example. So when you drink champagne on an airplane, why does it never taste good? So I was given an opportunity by an importer in England that it was 3 Masters of Wine, and we took a hot air balloon, opened a bottle of Grand Champagne on the ground level, and then went always up, up until 10,000 feet, and tasted it seriously, recording our findings at every, certain altitudes. And, of course, the end result was that champagne tastes luckily best on ground level. So it just loses it's not that champagne changes, it's our senses that change. But basically, it loses the fruitiness, deliciousness, becomes more sort of bitter and austere, and the bubbles also, the feeling of the bubbles gets more sort of aggressive. But then for me also personally, as champagne has an important history, all the the famous widows and the war histories, and, maybe not as a tasting experience, but I just love when there's a chance to taste history, to taste some of the most historical, the oldest bottles of champagne, or say the ones that, the shipwreck champagne bottles from the 1830s. The Veuve Clicquot bottle was made during Madame Clicquot's era. So really to be able to taste something that, she created, these sort of, links to the history are something that I think is really, super valuable and emotionally touching for me.
What a wonderful privilege it is. And what a wonderful privilege it is to have you here with us today. And I really appreciate your time. It's been incredible to hear more about your journey. And I've had a number of opportunities to spend with you now over the last few years. And you have always been incredibly approachable, warm and welcoming, and just as champagne is, the style of champagne. And I appreciate that relationship that we've had, and for you sharing your knowledge with our followers today. And thank you, Essi. It's been an absolute joy.
Really, thank you so much, Sarah.
Cheers. Vine and Bubble is a boutique and independent information source dedicated exclusively to telling the real story of Champagne. It was launched by me, Sarah Underdown, in November 2018 after almost a decade of working in the champagne industry as a recognised writer, educator and presenter. Vine and Bubble brings together a network of Australian wine journalists, sommeliers, educators and industry representatives as regular contributors. As a team of champagne lovers and communicators, we are thrilled to share our united passion with wine-loving audiences. To read more about Champagne, to subscribe to events in Australia and learn more about opportunities to join us for experiences in Champagne, visit vineandbubble.com and register your details.